Have you ever wondered what it takes to lead a people from wandering in the wilderness to victory, to see promises that seemed distant finally fulfilled? Joshua's journey wasn't just a conquest of land. It was a relentless pursuit of faith, obedience, and the fulfillment of God's word. As Moses' successor, Joshua stepped into a role that demanded unwavering courage, facing towering walls, powerful kings, and unimaginable challenges. Through every battle and every miracle, Joshua proved that true victory is achieved not by strength alone, but by trusting in something far greater. In this story, we dive deep into the life of a man who became a legend, guided by faith, as he led Israel to conquer the Promised Land, step by step. Discover how Joshua's courage, faith, and dedication can inspire us to face our own battles, knowing that with God, even the impossible becomes reality. Joshua's journey as a leader began with humble service as Moses' right hand, learning the ways of faith and courage by witnessing God's work firsthand. As the son of Nun from the tribe of Ephraim, he was chosen not for his status, but for his dedication to God. Under Moses, Joshua grew into a courageous warrior, willing to defend Israel and act as an example of unwavering faith. Through every battle, he demonstrated his commitment to God, making him a trusted leader and a man of great influence among the people. Joshua's role was not just about strength, it was about heart and faith. He was one of the 2 spies who, against all odds, brought back a hopeful report from Canaan, refusing to let fear overtake his belief in God's promises. His courage to stand firm, even when others doubted, shows that true leadership is grounded in faith, not just physical power. This defining moment of faith set him apart and made him a prime example of what it means to be dedicated to God's call. With Moses passing, the immense responsibility of leading Israel fell to Joshua. Stepping into the shoes of a leader as revered as Moses was no small feat, yet Joshua faced this role with unwavering faith and a humble heart. God reassured him, saying, "As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you." This divine promise became Joshua's strength as he took on the daunting task of guiding a nation through uncertainty toward the fulfillment of God's promise. Joshua's leadership demanded not only courage but a deep reliance on God's guidance. He understood that leading Israel was not about personal power or wisdom, but about obedience to God's will. His trust was put to the test early on, as he had to make difficult decisions and inspire faith in a generation that had seen both miraculous victories and heartbreaking failures. Joshua's journey exemplifies that true leadership is marked by reliance on God, especially when the path ahead is unclear. One of the most defining moments in Joshua's leadership came as he prepared to lead Israel across the Jordan River. Standing on its banks, with the Promised Land in sight, Joshua received divine instructions. God commanded the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant to step into the water, and as they did, the river miraculously parted, allowing the entire nation to cross on dry ground. This miracle not only showcased God's power, but symbolized his unwavering presence with Joshua and Israel. The crossing of the Jordan was more than just a physical journey. It was a spiritual statement of faith and trust. With every step across that dry riverbed, the people were reminded that God was actively involved in their lives, guiding and protecting them. Joshua's leadership here wasn't about control or might, but about facilitating an encounter between the people and their God. This miraculous crossing was a clear message. God was with them, just as he had been with Moses at the Red Sea. After the miraculous crossing of the Jordan River, Joshua instructed the people to create a memorial using 12 stones from the riverbed. Each stone represented one of the 12 tribes of Israel, symbolizing their unity and shared experience of God's faithfulness. This memorial wasn't merely for the present generation, but for future ones, so that every time they saw these stones, they would remember how God led them through impossible circumstances. Joshua understood that reminders of faith are essential in keeping a community grounded in God's promises. The conquest of Jericho is one of the most iconic moments in Joshua's journey as a leader. God's instructions were unusual. rather than attacking the city with force, he commanded Joshua and the Israelites to march around Jericho once a day for 6 days. On the 7th day, they were to march around the city 7 times, with priests blowing trumpets, and then give a loud shout. Following God's plan precisely, Joshua led Israel in this unconventional strategy, placing full trust in God's promise that the walls would fall. During his conquest of Canaan, Joshua encountered the Gibeonites, who came to him pretending to be from a distant land. They wore old clothes, carried moldy bread, and convinced Joshua they were not from nearby. Believing their story, Joshua made a peace treaty with them without seeking God's guidance. This decision bound Israel in a treaty they couldn't break, even when they discovered the Gibeonites were actually their neighbors. This moment became a valuable lesson for Joshua in the importance of seeking God's wisdom in every decision. In one of the most miraculous events recorded in the Bible, Joshua faced an alliance of 5 Amorite kings who sought to overpower Israel. In the heat of battle, Joshua prayed for divine intervention, asking God to make the sun stand still over Gibeon and the moon over the valley of Ajalon. In response to his bold faith, God extended the day, stopping the sun and moon, allowing Israel the time they needed to achieve a complete victory. This extraordinary act demonstrated God's control over creation and his willingness to respond to Joshua's faith. After the decisive victory over the Amorite kings, Joshua continued to lead Israel in a series of military campaigns across southern and northern Canaan. With each battle, Israel grew stronger, securing more territory and solidifying their hold over the Promised Land. These campaigns were not just conquests, they were the fulfillment of God's promise to give Israel a land of their own. Joshua's leadership during these campaigns demonstrated his unwavering trust in God's promises and his ability to inspire the people to keep pressing forward. After the significant victories in Canaan, Joshua gathered the tribes of Israel at Mount Ebal to renew their covenant with God. This moment wasn't about celebrating triumphs, but about reaffirming the foundation of their relationship with God: obedience and commitment. Joshua led the people in reading aloud the blessings and curses of the law, reminding them that their success was not by chance, but a result of God's favor. By renewing the covenant, Joshua emphasized that continued faithfulness was key to living in God's blessings. The ceremony at Mount Ebal was a solemn reminder that Israel's identity was deeply rooted in their relationship with God. Joshua built an altar, offering sacrifices and inscribing the law on stones for all to see. This public display of dedication reinforced the idea that God's law was central to their lives. For Israel, this moment was a powerful call to remember their purpose, to live as God's chosen people, set apart and committed to his ways. Joshua's leadership here underscored that victories were gifts from God, and with each blessing came a responsibility to remain obedient. The renewal of the covenant was a milestone that refocused Israel's hearts toward God. In a time when they could have grown self-reliant, Joshua's call to humility and reverence served as a powerful reminder that God alone was their protector and provider. This renewal was not just a ritual, but a commitment to live by God's standards in every aspect of their lives. Through this act, Joshua established a legacy of devotion and obedience, guiding Israel to remember that the greatest victories come from a heart aligned with God's will. With the conquest of Canaan complete, Joshua's final responsibility was to divide the Promised Land among the 12 tribes of Israel. This division was not just a practical allocation of territory, but a fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Each tribe received an inheritance as a reminder that the land belonged to God, given as a gift to his people. Joshua's actions reinforced the understanding that Israel's relationship with the land was sacred, rooted in God's covenant and dependent on their continued faithfulness. Joshua's method of dividing the land highlighted fairness and the importance of unity among the tribes. Lots were cast to determine each tribe's portion, symbolizing that the land's distribution was ultimately guided by God's hand. This process taught Israel that their inheritance was not based on status or strength, but on God's provision. Through this careful and deliberate division, Joshua demonstrated that God's promises were fulfilled down to the smallest detail, fostering a sense of community and shared purpose among the tribes. The division of the land also served as a solemn reminder that Israel's future depended on their commitment to God. Joshua reminded the people that they were stewards of the land and that their blessing would endure as long as they remained obedient. The Promised Land was a physical manifestation of God's faithfulness, and Joshua's leadership ensured that the tribes understood their responsibility to honor this gift. Through this act, Joshua cemented a legacy of faith and loyalty, guiding Israel into a future rooted in God's promises. As we reflect on Joshua's journey, we're reminded that faith isn't just about believing in something greater. It's about acting on it, even when the path is uncertain. Joshua's life teaches us that victories in life come from courage, obedience, and a steadfast trust in God's guidance. So, what battles are you facing today? Are you willing to place your trust in something beyond yourself, to believe that with God, walls can crumble, and the impossible can be achieved? Remember, each challenge is an opportunity to grow stronger in faith. If Joshua's story inspires you, subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, and let's continue this journey together, exploring the powerful lessons of the Bible.